Have you ever noticed that two people can go through the exact same situation and yet walk away as completely different people? One loses hope. The other becomes stronger. One spends years trapped by fear. The other finds peace. So what makes the difference? Is it intelligence? Money? Luck? Not even close. The difference is something almost nobody teaches: the way you think. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that criticism no longer controls you. Failure no longer terrifies you. Rejection no longer defines you. People can doubt you, ignore you, even laugh at you, and yet your mind remains completely steady. It sounds impossible, but more than 2,000 years ago, one man proved that it wasn't. His name was Epictetus. He wasn't born into privilege. He wasn't born into freedom. He entered this world as a slave. Every day of his life was controlled by someone else. He had no wealth, no status, no power. According to history, his master treated him with such cruelty that he permanently injured his leg. Most people would have spent the rest of their lives asking one question: why me? But Epictetus asked a different question: what part of my life still belongs to me? That single question changed everything. Years later, the man who once owned nothing became one of the greatest teachers in history. Roman generals sought his advice. Philosophers studied his words. Even emperors listened when he spoke. Not because he conquered kingdoms, but because he conquered something far more difficult: his own mind. And here's the incredible part. The same principles that transformed a slave into one of history's strongest minds are just as powerful today as they were 2,000 years ago. Because human nature hasn't changed. We still fear rejection. We still chase approval. We still worry about things we cannot control. We still allow other people to decide how we feel. Maybe you've experienced it yourself. One careless comment ruins your entire day. One failure makes you question your future. One mistake convinces you that you're not good enough. Little by little, you hand your peace away without even realizing it. But what if none of that was necessary? What if the strongest version of yourself has been there all along, waiting for you to think differently? That's exactly what this video is about. Not becoming emotionless, not pretending life is easy, but becoming the kind of person who stays calm when life becomes difficult. Over the next few minutes, you'll discover 10 timeless principles that have helped people face failure without giving up, criticism without breaking, success without arrogance, and loss without losing themselves. Don't watch this video as entertainment. Watch it as a conversation, because one of these lessons might become the turning point you've been searching for. Let's begin with the first principle. It's simple, but if you truly understand it, your life will never look the same again. Principle 1. The difference between control and illusion. A few years ago, researchers asked hundreds of people a simple question: what causes you the most stress? The answers were almost always the same: my future, what people think about me, my career, my relationships, my finances. On the surface, those answers seemed completely different, but underneath them all, there was one common problem. People were trying to control things that had never belonged to them in the first place. Think about how much time you spent replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing, worrying about whether someone likes you, imagining problems that haven't even happened yet. Now ask yourself one honest question: how many of those hours actually changed anything? Probably none. That's the trap. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more control it gains over you. This was the very first lesson Epictetus taught. He believed that every problem in life could be divided into just two categories: things you can control and things you can't. Your effort, your attitude, your discipline, your honesty, those belong to you. Other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, your past, the future, none of those belong to you. The moment you confuse the two, your peace begins to disappear. Imagine trying to stop the rain with your hands. No matter how hard you try, the rain keeps falling. Eventually, you become exhausted. Not because the rain defeated you, but because you were fighting the wrong battle. Life works the same way. Most people don't lose their peace because life is difficult. They lose it because they're trying to control what life was never asking them to control. So the next time something goes wrong, before your mind starts racing, stop for a moment and ask yourself one honest question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, give it your full attention. If the answer is no, let it go without guilt. Because every minute you spend fighting reality is a minute stolen from building the life you actually want. The strongest people aren't the ones who control everything. They're the ones who know exactly where to spend their energy. And that simple shift can change your life forever. Principle 2. Your greatest strength is hidden in one moment. Imagine someone sends you a message that instantly makes your blood boil. Maybe it's unfair. Maybe it's insulting. Maybe it's a complete lie. Without even thinking, your fingers are already moving across the keyboard. You know exactly what you want to say. You want to prove them wrong. You want the last word. You want them to feel exactly what they made you feel. But here's something worth thinking about. How many of the biggest regrets in your life started with a moment like that? One angry message, one careless sentence, one decision made in the heat of emotion. It only takes a few seconds to create a problem that lasts for years. That's why the Stoics believed your greatest strength isn't found in your first reaction. It's found in what happens next. Between every event and every response, there's a small space. Most people never notice it. They react automatically. Someone criticizes them, they attack. Someone rejects them, they give up. Something goes wrong, they panic. They spend their entire lives reacting instead of choosing. But that tiny space is where your freedom lives. It's the moment where you decide whether your emotions will control you or whether you will control your emotions. Epictetus once reminded his students that people are disturbed not by events themselves, but by the judgments they make about those events. Think about that. The event happens first, your interpretation comes second, and your reaction comes last. If you learn to slow down that middle step, you begin to take your life back. The next time someone insults you, don't rush to answer. The next time life disappoints you, don't assume it's the end. Give yourself a moment. Because clarity arrives much slower than emotion. And the decisions you make with a clear mind are almost always the decisions you'll be proud of tomorrow. Anyone can react. It takes real strength to respond. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you'll ever say is nothing at all.
Principle 3. Stop chasing other people's approval. A young man once asked an old philosopher, "How do I stop caring about what people think of me?" The philosopher smiled and replied, "The day you realize they're too busy thinking about themselves." It's funny, isn't it? We spend years worrying about what everyone else thinks, when the truth is, most people are fighting battles we know nothing about. Think about the last time someone judged you. Maybe they laughed at your dream. Maybe they criticized your work. Maybe they doubted your abilities. It probably stayed in your mind for days. But ask yourself this: Do you still remember every person you judged 5 years ago? Probably not, because people move on much faster than we imagine. The prison exists only inside our own minds. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than anyone. As the most powerful man in Rome, he knew people would praise him one day and criticize him the next. If he built his happiness on their opinions, he would never know peace. So instead, he focused on the only opinion that truly mattered: his own. That's one of the hardest lessons to learn. You can spend your entire life trying to make everyone happy, and you'll still disappoint someone. No matter how kind you are, someone will misunderstand you. No matter how successful you become, someone will say you don't deserve it. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, someone will choose not to listen. And that's okay, because your purpose isn't to convince everyone. Your purpose is to become someone you can respect. The next time someone criticizes you, don't immediately defend yourself. Ask one simple question: is there something I can learn from this? If the answer is yes, be grateful. Growth often arrives disguised as criticism. If the answer is no, let it go. Not every opinion deserves your attention. The moment you stop chasing approval, you begin living for something much greater: your values, your purpose, your peace. Because at the end of the day, the voice you hear the most is your own. Make sure that's the one you learn to trust.
Principle 4. The moment you stop taking insults personally, you become dangerous. Imagine walking through a city and the complete stranger suddenly points at you and says, "You're a failure." Would those words actually change who you are? Would they erase your skills, your experiences, your character? Of course not. So why do they hurt? Because we give them permission to. Most insults don't have power on their own. They borrow their power from our reaction. Epictetus once taught that if someone speaks badly about you, they are speaking about the version of you that exists in their mind, not the person you truly are. Think about that. No one sees the complete you. They don't know every sacrifice you've made. They don't know the nights you stayed awake worrying about your future. They don't know the battles you've already survived. They only see a tiny piece of your story. Yet we often let that tiny piece define how we feel. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every insult you refuse to let go becomes another heavy stone inside it. At first, it doesn't feel like much, but after months or years, the weight becomes exhausting. The person who insulted you has already moved on, but you're still carrying their words. Why? Here's a better way to look at it. Every insult is a test, not of your intelligence, not of your success, but of your emotional strength. The next time someone tries to provoke you, don't ask, "How do I prove them wrong?" Ask, "Why does this affect me so much?" That question changes everything, because sometimes the insult reveals more about your own insecurity than it does about the other person. And once you understand that, the insult loses its grip. The strongest people aren't impossible to offend. They simply refuse to let someone else's emotions become their own. Remember this: anyone can throw a stone. Very few people have the strength not to throw one back. And in a world where everyone is reacting, the person who stays calm is the one with the real power.
Principle 5. Fear is usually a story, not reality. Imagine you're standing on the edge of the biggest opportunity of your life. A new business, a new career, a dream you've been thinking about for years. You know exactly what you want to do, but you don't move. Not because you can't, but because you're afraid. Afraid of failing, Afraid of being judged, afraid of starting over, afraid that everyone will say, "I told you so." Here's the strange part. None of those things have happened yet. They're only happening inside your mind. That's what fear does. It takes an imaginary future and convinces you it's already real. Before you take the first step, your mind has already imagined failure. Before anyone rejects you, you've already rejected yourself. Before life says no, you've already said it to yourself. The Stoics understood something that most people never do. Fear grows in uncertainty. The less you face it, the bigger it becomes. That's why they asked themselves a simple question. What's the worst that could happen? Not because they expected the worst, but because they wanted to stop running from it. Imagine you fail. Then what? Would your life end? No. Would it hurt? Probably. Would you learn something? Absolutely. Could you start again? Of course. Most of the things we fear aren't fatal. They're uncomfortable. And there's a huge difference. Think about your own life. Some of the hardest moments you've ever faced felt impossible while they were happening. But somehow, you're still here, stronger, wiser, more experienced than before. The truth is, your life has already proven that you're far more resilient than your fear wants you to believe. Fear always whispers, "Don't move." Growth always replies, "Take one more step." The people you admire aren't fearless. They simply stopped waiting for fear to disappear. They moved anyway. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else is more important than fear. Maybe today, that decision is yours. And years from now, you may look back at this moment and realize that the biggest obstacle in your life was never the world. It was the story fear kept telling you.
Most people live with an invisible promise. They believe that one day, everything will finally fall into place. One day, they'll have enough money. One day, they'll stop feeling stressed. One day, they'll be happy. One day, life will finally become easy. But what if that day never comes? What if life was never supposed to be easy? The Stoics never expected a perfect life. They expected challenges, not because they were pessimists, but because they understood reality. Every life will experience loss. Every life will experience failure. Every life will experience disappointment. No one escapes it. Not kings, not billionaires, not the people who seem to have everything. The difference is that some people are shocked when hardship arrives, while others are prepared for it. Imagine two sailors caught in the same storm. One spends all his time complaining about the waves. The other adjusts the sails. The storm is the same, but the outcome is completely different. Life works exactly the same way. You don't become stronger because problems disappear. You become stronger because you learn how to face them. Epictetus once said that difficult circumstances don't create a person's character, they reveal it. Think about every difficult moment you've survived, every heartbreak, every rejection, every setback. At the time, it felt like your life was falling apart, but looking back, those moments shaped the person you've become. Without them, you wouldn't have the wisdom you have today. Maybe that's why life doesn't remove every obstacle. Maybe some obstacles are the lesson. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That one question changes suffering into growth, because every challenge carries two gifts. The first is pain. The second is wisdom. Most people notice only the pain. Very few stay long enough to receive the wisdom. The next time life doesn't go according to your plan, don't see it as proof that you're on the wrong path. See it as another opportunity to become someone stronger than you were yesterday.
Because the strongest people in the world weren't built during their best days. They were built during the days they thought they wouldn't survive, and somehow they kept going.
Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, shouting at the sky, demanding that the rain stop. No matter how loud you scream, the storm doesn't care. Yet that's exactly how many of us live. We fight reality every single day. We replay the past. We argue with things that have already happened. We wish people had treated us differently. We wish life had been more fair. We wish we could go back and change one decision. But reality never negotiates. What's done is done. The moment has passed. The words have already been spoken. No amount of regret can rewrite yesterday. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that still feels true today. The obstacle is the way. At first, those words don't make much sense. How can an obstacle become the path? Because every time life refuses to follow your plan, it gives you a choice. You can waste your energy wishing reality were different, or you can use that same energy to build a better future. One choice keeps you stuck. The other moves you forward. Think about a river. When a huge rock blocks its path, the river doesn't stop. It doesn't complain. It doesn't try to push the rock away. It simply finds another way forward, and eventually it reaches the ocean anyway. That's resilience, not forcing life to change, but learning how to move with it. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean pretending pain doesn't exist. It means seeing reality exactly as it is, without adding unnecessary suffering. The strongest people aren't the ones who always get what they want. They're the ones who know how to adapt when they don't. Because life will disappoint you. People will leave. Plans will fail. Doors will close. Those things are inevitable. But staying trapped inside yesterday is a choice. So stop asking, why did this happen? Start asking, what can I build from here? Because your future has never depended on the past. It has always depended on what you choose to do next. And sometimes accepting reality isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a much better one. Principle 8. Master your impulses before they master you. Imagine someone places two buttons in front of you. The first button gives you instant satisfaction. The second gives you a better life. Almost everyone reaches for the first one. That's how impulses work. They always promise something now, while quietly stealing something much bigger later. Think about the moments you've regretted the most. The angry message you sent. The money you spent without thinking. The opportunity you walked away from because you were afraid. The promise you broke because it felt easier in the moment. None of those decisions were made with a clear mind. They were made by emotion. And the emotions are terrible leaders. The Stoics believed that freedom wasn't the ability to do whatever you wanted. Freedom was the ability to choose what was truly worth doing. That's a completely different kind of power, because anyone can follow a feeling. Very few people can question it. Every impulse asks for one thing: act now. Wisdom asks a different question: will this decision still make sense tomorrow? That single question has the power to save relationships, protect your future, and change the direction of your life. Imagine you're driving a car. Your emotions are the engine. They give you energy. They help you move. But if the engine starts controlling the steering wheel, you're headed for a crash. Your mind was never meant to eliminate emotion. It was meant to guide it. That's real self-control. Not becoming cold, not pretending you don't feel anything, but refusing to let one temporary emotion make a permanent decision. The strongest people aren't those who never feel anger. They feel it.
They simply don't obey it. They feel fear, but they don't surrender to it. They feel temptation, but they don't become its prisoner. Every time you pause before making an emotional decision, you're training your mind. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you're building character. And one day, people will look at your calmness, your patience, your confidence, and think you were born that way. They'll never see the thousands of small choices that created it, because greatness is rarely built in one extraordinary moment. It's built in ordinary moments, when nobody's watching, and you choose wisdom over impulse, again and again.
Principle 9. The past is a prison, unless you learn from it. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about one mistake you've never forgiven yourself for. Maybe it was a decision that changed your life. Maybe it was someone you hurt. Maybe it was an opportunity you let slip away. Or maybe it was simply becoming the person you promised yourself you would never become. Whatever it is, notice something. The event is over. It happened months ago, maybe years ago. Yet somehow, it's still controlling your life today. Not because the past has power, but because you keep giving it permission to stay. That's the strange thing about regret. It convinces you that if you replay the memory enough times, you'll somehow change the ending. But life doesn't work that way. No amount of guilt can rewrite yesterday. No amount of wishing can undo a single moment. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They believed the past has only one purpose: to teach you, not to trap you. Every mistake carries a lesson. But once you've learned the lesson, there's no reason to keep carrying the pain. Imagine climbing a mountain with a backpack full of rocks. Every regret you refuse to let go becomes another rock. Year after year, the climb becomes harder. Not because the mountain changed, but because you refuse to put the weight down. Most people spend so much time looking behind them, they never notice the path that's still waiting ahead. The truth is, your future doesn't care who you used to be. It only cares about who you choose to become today. You are not your worst decision. You are not your biggest failure. You are not the person you were 5 years ago. People grow, people learn, people change. That's what makes us human. Forgive yourself for not knowing what you know now. Then take everything life taught you and use it to build someone wiser. Because the strongest people aren't those who never made mistakes. They're the ones who refuse to let those mistakes become their identity. Leave the past where it belongs, not because it wasn't important, but because your future deserves your attention more than your regrets ever will. At the end of your life, people won't remember how many followers you had. They won't remember the size of your bank account. They won't remember how expensive your car was, or how impressive your job title sounded. Those things disappear. What remains is the person you became while chasing them. Think about the people you admire the most, not because they're famous, but because they have something that can't be bought. The friend who always keeps their word. The parent who sacrifices everything for their family. The teacher who changes lives without expecting applause. The stranger who chooses kindness when no one is watching. What makes those people unforgettable? It isn't success, it's character. The Stoics believed that character is the only thing you truly own. Everything else is borrowed. Money can disappear overnight. Your health can change in a single moment. Relationships can end. Your reputation can be destroyed by a rumor. Even the strongest body will eventually grow old. But your character, that's a choice you make every single day. Every honest decision strengthens it. Every promise you keep strengthens it. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you strengthen it again. Most people spend their lives trying to look successful. Very few spend their lives trying to become worthy of success. And that's the difference, because success can be taken away. Character cannot. Imagine two people losing everything they own. One completely falls apart. The other starts again from nothing. Why? Because one built a life around possessions. The other built a life around principles. One lost everything. The other lost only things. Never confuse the two. If you wake up every morning determined to become a little wiser, a little kinder, a little more disciplined than yesterday, you're already winning. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you become stronger than the problems life sends your way. That is the ultimate lesson of Stoicism. You don't need the world to become better before you become better. You don't need perfect circumstances before you find peace. You don't need everyone's approval before you respect yourself. The greatest victory you'll ever achieve isn't over another person. It isn't over money. It isn't over success. It's over the version of yourself that once believed happiness depended on things outside your control. The day you master your own mind is the day the world loses its power to break you. And that is what real freedom looks like.
Think back to the person you were just 20 minutes ago. You probably clicked on this video hoping to learn a few Stoic ideas. But if there's one thing I hope you're taking away today, it's this. Your greatest battle was never against the world. It was against the habits inside your own mind. Every fear, every moment of anger, every disappointment, every insult, every setback was an opportunity to become stronger. Not because life became easier, but because you became wiser. Epictetus was born with almost nothing, no freedom, no power, no certainty about tomorrow. Yet history remembers him not as a victim, but as a man who mastered himself. That reminds us of something important. You don't need a perfect life to build a powerful mind. You only need the willingness to choose wisdom one decision at a time. So don't try to remember all 10 principles tomorrow. Choose just one. Practice it for the next 7 days. Notice what changes. Then come back and choose another. Because a strong mind isn't built in one day. It's built one choice at a time, one habit at a time, one challenge at a time. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll become the kind of person who stays calm while others panic, who keeps moving while others quit, and who finds peace even when life isn't peaceful. If this video made you see your life a little differently, tell me in the comments, which principle do you think will change your life the most and why? I read every comment and I'd love to hear your story. If you enjoy videos that challenge the way you think, consider subscribing. There are many more timeless ideas waiting for you. Until next time, take care of your mind, because once you master your mind, very little in this world can ever master you.